businesses with illicit activities going on, why are they still in business? I'm just kind of, that'd be a fair question.
I can take some of that. So, part of the difficulty is it's one thing to identify the business, but based on the current structure of the ordinance, because it regulates the permit of the massage business itself, you can create a situation where you have, and the best way I can describe it is kind of like a game of whack-a-mole, where even if you identify the business, you identify the person. If the person's an independent contractor, person is shut down, if there's some, I'll call it a kingpin for lack of a better phrase, there's just somebody else put into the place, somebody with the minimum certification, the minimum qualifications, may or may not have valid transcripts. So by increasing that requirement for the actual training, having that CAMTC certification, you make it so that that game of what I'll call whack-a-mole of replacing that illegitimate business becomes far more difficult. So it isn't just that we know 30 businesses and shut the businesses down, it's that you do that, and then what happens is another one pops up because it's frankly easier to open a massage business in Roseville than it is elsewhere, which is a good thing from a business standpoint, but not from an illicit business standpoint.
And my other question was, we're proposing changing the moratorium. If a business does get in trouble, they can't come back to that same location right now for a year, but we're changing it to 3 years. Why the 3 years? What's the difference?
And you guys can, again, feel free to jump in and for more statistics, but what we have found is that there are certain sites where have probably been identified by the illicit community as being spots that were popular for patrons of that activity. And the problem is what we found is if there's a bad actor in a spot, even within a year, if another actor opens in that spot, another masseuse or massage business, sometimes the clientele expects that same spot to be there. Okay. So putting that distance, that gap between that helps prevent that kind of game of, revolving door, if you will. Okay. I don't know if there's more to it, but if that is accurate for that piece, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Great. Other questions?
Maybe just a comment that, there are a lot of good massage therapists and organizations, and I think this keeps everything above board.
Yeah. Councilman Mendoza?
Nope.
All right, I'll open it for public comment. We have public comment on this item? Sorry, I didn't see it there.
Hello, I'm Beverly May. I'm Director of Governmental Affairs and Human Trafficking with the California Massage Therapy Council. CAMTC has a long history of working with cities and counties to make suggestions for proposed changes to their ordinances that incorporate best practices used by other jurisdictions that take aim at illicit massage establishments by treading lightly on legitimate massage professionals. This is a difficult balance to strike, and we're always striving to incorporate new suggested changes that get us closer to this important goal. Ordinances are complicated, and there's many moving parts that work together to make an entire ordinance one that contains best practices. By providing the city, CAMTC has given you different alternatives to consider to strengthen your ordinance while protecting the profession. We feel the city has done a very good job of incorporating reasonable and cost-effective tools to prevent the hijacking of the massage profession by criminals and human traffickers, and to facilitate abating the approximately 29 illicit establishments identified as of last April. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Unless the council has any additional questions or comments, I'll ask the city clerk to read the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On item 8.1, the City Council will consider introducing for a first reading an ordinance of the Council of the City of Roseville amending Chapter 9.10 of Title 9 of the Roseville Municipal Code regarding massage services and adopting Resolution Number 24-271, adopting massage exemption certificate application and renewal fees and incorporating the fees into the schedule of user and regulatory fees. With that, may I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with a second. We'll start a roll call with Councilmember Elverd.
Yes.
Councilmember Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Haldeshell.
Yes. Thank you very much for your presentation. Next up, we'll have reports and presentations. 9.1, C63 Park Site Master Plan Approval with our Park and Planning Development Manager, Tara G., and our Parks and Recreation Library Director, Jill Geller.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Howdeshelt, members of the council. I am Jill Geller, your Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director. Tara and I are very happy to be here tonight to share with you two different park master plans. We are going to start with C63 Neighborhood Park, and I'll turn it over to Tara G., our Park Planning and Development Manager, to share information with you.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here to present the master plan for C63. It is a 2.5-acre park site located in the Creekview area. The roads surrounding the park are Lemonade Lane, Treehouse Lane, Lower Bank Drive, and Grass Creek Drive. The total budget for this project is $1.2 million, and this includes all costs associated with the project, not only construction, but what we call soft costs, such as design, permitting, inspection, and project management. Typically, when it comes to a budget, 25 to 30% of project budget is allocated for soft costs. For C63, this leaves approximately $800,000 to $900,000 for actual construction. I wanted to note that the park is not yet owned by the city. It's typically transferred to the city before we start construction. For the public outreach efforts, they began in September of 2023 with a virtual workshop. Approximately 40 residents attended, and we received a lot of feedback about a children's play area with shade, basketball, picnic, and grass areas being the top priorities. Other items suggested were splash pads, pickleball, and skate tracks. And in this meeting, there were a large number of comments from the residents that didn't necessarily agree. For example, restroom, no restroom, half court for basketball, full court for basketball, pickleball, or basketball. So there were a lot of different ideas, and it was bantered around quite a bit. But taking all that feedback and considering the size and shape of the park, the close proximity to the residents, limited parking, traffic concerns, and the budget, a rough sketch shown here was presented to the neighbors at an in-person meeting in December. 30 people attended that meeting. And as a representative, the thick dashed lines that are shown on this graphic are proposed walking paths throughout. There's also a children's play area, swings, and picnic more towards the middle, and a separation between the half court for basketball and the children's play area. It's also important to point out that the lower portion of the park shown in hatched lines indicates natural water-conserving plantings in clusters and bark mulch. And I'll explain a little bit more about this in a minute. Items such as a full court for basketball, splash pad, pickleball, skate track, dog parks are typically amenities that attract users from beyond the neighborhood. Given the location and the limitations described earlier, these items do not fit within the context of the immediate neighborhood and would increase the concerns related to noise, parking, and traffic. During the in-person meeting, it was suggested that the basketball court be moved more north or even further north because the neighbors have social events that occur frequently with food trucks. People could use the basketball court to bring their lawn chairs and socialize while eating. And in a vote at the meeting, those in attendance preferred the dual use of the basketball court area as well as the social area. The rough sketch was then revised to reflect feedback from the December meeting, and a 2-week write-in period began at the end of March. 13 people voted, in which 9 supported the park, 1 did not, and 4 expressing concern about the main cluster of park amenities that are close to their homes. Additionally, the Neighborhood Association posted the master plan on their Facebook page, where 21 people commented and were in support of the proposed plan. Many of the comments did, however, ask for a swing area, and due to budget concerns, the the swings were not originally added. Given the number of comments asking for swings, we revised the master plan to add this amenity. However, to ensure we meet budget, the natural grass area was downsized, as you will see in the final master plan in an upcoming slide. Regarding the concern about the location of the more active amenities in the more northern area of the park, the majority of the neighborhood asked that the half-court for basketball be moved to the north because of the social activities that happen on Grass Creek Drive, which is the road at the north with the food trucks. To realize greater efficiencies in clustering the play area, the picnic areas, and swings, the amount of concrete serves multiple purposes and allows the budget, the design to meet the budget. It should be also noted that the half-court for basketball is generally less active, less noisy, and serves more of a family environment in the context of a neighborhood park as compared to a full court for basketball. So the draft master plan proposes the following improvements: a multi-use purpose court for basketball and social gatherings, a shaded play area, swings, shaded picnic area, a looped pathway, natural grass, landscaping, and irrigation. Again, these improvements meet the $800,000 and $900,000 construction budget, and if approved, as the plan is further refined, the grass area may further be decreased or enlarged based on construction costs at that time. Other options to preserve the size of the grass while meeting budget could include elimination of some of the active amenities. However, the feedback from the residents placed a higher priority on the active amenities for the park rather than a larger grass area. In addition to the park features shown, some residents asked for consideration of a zip line. This graphic shows how one could be incorporated into the plan. The added cost of the zip line is in excess of $65,000 and will cause the project to exceed the overall budget. This will be included in the construction documents as an add alternative. However, the overall grass area will need to be reduced further should we consider adding the zip line in order to meet the budgetary constraints. So once we receive bids, we can make a final determination on what can be included in the construction of the park. In order to be fully transparent with the budgetary constraints, the master plan has been adjusted to include notations, which include the potential for a zip line based on bids and budget, indications of the potential increase or decrease of the turf area, also based on bid and budget, and that the lower portion of the park, as shown here, will be planned for pockets of water-conserving plantings and bark mulch. This plan was shared with the Parks and Recreation Commission at their June meeting, and the commission made the recommendation to forward this plan to council for formal approval. It is at this time I want to pause for a moment to talk about park financing as it applies to parks in Creekview and Sierra Vista. In the case of Creekview, the park financing plan was developed in 2011, more than 13 years ago. The budgets were tight, but were the best guess at that time. And using these numbers, park fees were established and, as you know, are collected during the building permit process. When we are ready to build, a construction cost index or an inflationary factor is applied for each year since the adoption of the plan area. This creates a budget for each park. So fast forward to today. While we would like to think we're over COVID, or at least post-COVID situation, the issues related to post-COVID is still affecting the construction industry in regards to labor, manufacturing delays, materials unavailability, and more. The pricing has started to stabilize, but they're not coming down. Regulations such as Clean Water Act, which requires stormwater pollution protection in the form of plans, monitoring, and reporting, and the Clean Air Act, where equipment used for construction must meet current emissions control standards, also impact the cost of construction. These were not contemplated in the financing plan back in 2011. and these regulations are costly to implement. While we are not in a drought today, considerations of drought need to always be in the forefront. Droughts are cyclical and will return time and time again. So we are prudent when we are looking at the amount of grass that we incorporate into each park design. For C63, it is the first of 4 parks to be built in Creekview, and we are very cautious to stay within the established budgets of each park so we can ensure that the very last park can also be built. This leads to difficult decisions and choices to be made in the designs of our parks moving forward. While we would like to be able to provide a variety of amenities as much as possible, we continue to be challenged by both the available funding resources and the increased cost of construction. So for example, for C63, if we were to build to the desires of the residents, we would require between $350,000 and $400,000 more to build more funding to build all of the amenities that they wish to have. So what's next for C63? If approved, we will move forward with construction document preparation, obtain permits, and work towards breaking ground sometime in the spring of 2025. And based on that, the park could open in the spring of 2026. Before you tonight, we are seeking approval from the City Council to approve the master plan of C63 Neighborhood Park. This concludes my presentation, and we stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Tara. Council have any questions? Councilman Albert?
I do. I'm excited that we're able to get a park to this community because they have nowhere to walk to. They're kind of landlocked out there and without crossing big roads, so it's nice that we're getting it. It's really heartbreaking to know that we've, because of the time lapse, and like you explained, the parks are just underfunded for doing a really good quality park like we used to be able to do in the good old days. One of my concerns right now is when I'm looking at the 2 maps, we talked about turf area with a bunch of bark below, but that sidewalk is a pretty big delineator. And is it possible to move the sidewalk down so we still have the future possible turf? Because I don't think we're going to rip out cement later. Is there a way to put bark on both sides of it so we don't have to lose the actual sidewalk?
Is that something that was discussed at the community meetings, or is this something that's a new ad?
I was there and I don't remember the side. I just see in the pictures the sidewalk's
I
different
guess
between them.
it's- You do extensive outreach in this process, and so, you would have to take something like this back to the community to see if it's embraced by the entire community, wouldn't you?
Well, adjusting a sidewalk is certainly something that we could work on. If we were to have additional funding at the end, after the 4th park is, there's where the sidewalk is doesn't limit us from adding more turf. In fact, the lower area with the bark and pockets of planting, there are 2 lines, if you will, walkways that are decomposed granite, and those can easily be removed and not be affected by any concrete work.
Right. And so what I'm saying, though, is you'd put grass below the sidewalk in the second picture, where in the first picture, if you just kept the sidewalk down there, you might have bark above it, and then eventually the bark would go away. That was my only comment. I just noticed that you're going to have a sidewalk kind of in the way of your grass if you add grass later.
Right. Now, keep in mind, this is representative. Again, as we're going through more detailed and refinement, we'll be able to understand where that walkway ends up being, and it could be, we can look at, future, we're always looking at future potential for expansion should, more resources be made available.
Any other, was that it?
Oh, I just had a comment.
Question?
A question.
You have a question?
No, I'm glad how you were talking about that you're working with the community and some of their ideas, but also the reality of, like, this is 2.5 acres, and what do you do in that kind of space? And this might be too big, and this might, not fit. So that it's sometimes what you want doesn't work there. And I think that's helpful for the community because then they'll see the whys. And so not put it back to reality, but sometimes things just don't fit, and sometimes you need to know that, or what's better in a small park versus a regional park.
Right.
Councilmember Mendoza, questions?
No questions. Thank you, Mayor.
So this park has been accelerated ahead of its usual schedule because of a community request, right?
Yes, yes. So our
Was-
focus was on another park, but based on community input, we switched the priority.
And that was the park that was across the street by the elementary school? Right, so you accelerated this one, okay. And then the zip line you mentioned, is that similar to the zip line at Central Park?
Yes, it's a similar, or at Elizabeth
Remember
Jane
zipping
Fitteman
down that
Park.
line? Yeah,
you
okay.
hang and go down.
I did that. I think there's video proof I did that. Okay. Those are my questions. I'll open it up for public comment.
Hello, everyone. Jesus Arechiga, President of the Creekview Neighborhood Association. I just have nothing but good things to say about Tara. We have been working with her from the project. Her team and herself have shown patience, cooperation, kindness, and just an unlimited amount of patience. That's we found her with so many questions, so many crazy ideas. I just don't know how you do it. And I'll just keep it short. On behalf of the community, I just want to say, and for the lack of further words, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? Or comments? I'm sorry. Any other public comment? I'll close public comment, bring it back to the council, see if there are any comments. I forgot one of my questions. So in the cycle of park naming, is this in the current cycle of park namings?
Yes, it is. It's currently, the name submissions are currently open until the end of the month, and this is one of them,
I'm sorry, they close when?
at the end of the month.
At the end of July?
Yes.
Okay, great. And the answer to your question is 25 years plus of doing this, so.
I might
Well-
interject, Mayor, it's 27 years this week.
Wow.
Good. Have you?
Absolutely. Let's, 35 is the goal, okay? Or 182 parks, I don't know. Anyway, I'll ask the clerk to read the motion.
Thank you. On item 9.1, the city council will consider approving the master plan for the C63 Park, a 2.5-acre neighborhood park located off of Lemonade Lane at the Lower Bank Drive within the Creekview area of Roseville. Will, if I could please have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with the second. We'll start our roll call with Councilmember Alvord. Yes. Councilmember Mendoza.
Yep.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Haldashelt.
Yes. Why don't you guys stay in place and do the next item, 9.1. I missed it. Turn the page, Bruce. 9.2, KT 52 School Park and Master Plan.
Well, just to reintroduce ourselves, I'm Jill Geller, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Libraries. With me is Tara G., Park Planning and Development Manager. And now we're going to talk about KT 52. Tara.
All right. Thank you, Jill. This park is a 7.6-acre site located in Sierra Vista on Sierra Village Drive at Silver Spruce, which is west of Westbrook Boulevard. It is located immediately south of a future elementary school. The timing of the elementary school's construction has not yet been determined. The budget for this site is $3.6 million, which includes the 20 to 30% soft costs that I mentioned earlier in the other presentation. This equates to about $2.7 million in construction. Again, the park property is not owned by the city as yet and will typically be transferred to the city before we start construction. Before I go on and discuss about public outreach for this park, I wanted to share a little bit about the difference between this park, a school park site, and a neighborhood park such as C63 that we just spoke of. School park sites are also considered neighborhood parks, but are larger in order to accommodate more organized sports and courts. To the extent possible, we look at it in a more of a campus-like approach to designing the park in order to develop joint use facilities and amenities that are shared both by the school as well as the parks. By taking this approach, it allows the city and the school district to stretch limited dollars. When looking at this size of park, we plan for a 2 to 2.5 acre hour stay and play value, meaning people will stay for that long and play based on types of amenities that are incorporated into the design, versus a park like C63, which is a 1 to 1.5 stay and play value because it's a smaller and more informal play. The challenge is that the new security measures for schools via fences limits the use of school outdoor amenities to a certain extent. So we have to look at both and try to balance those. So onto the public outreach. Our first meeting, again, was virtual and was held in November of 2023. 60 residents attended and identified priorities, which included a youth cricket or multi-use field, shaded play areas, shaded picnic area, and basketball. The second in-person meeting was held in January of 2024, and 20 people attended. We shared that the given budget would not be able to fully develop the entire 7.6 acre site. In this sketch, we showed the youth cricket or multi-use field. We shared that parking that would connect to the future school, which would be in this slide to the left. A full court for basketball, which was proposed to have dual stripes for the game of Coco, which, if you don't know what the game of Coco is, it's a
Leave that for a question, so we can ask.
Leave it for your question? I'll leave that then. I'll explain it later. And children's play area, a restroom, and a labyrinth or maze that are formed by a series of paths. Concerns were expressed regarding the labyrinth, which was larger compared to the size of the play area. We also presented options for the play area that could include a larger space with no shade or a smaller one with shade, simply to balance the budget. Residents were split on this. We did receive support for the cricket or multi-use field, and we received a definite no on the Coco Court. So here's the final master plan. The Coco Court has been removed, and the labyrinth is now a natural play area. The park improvements include a multi-use grass area that can accommodate youth cricket or youth soccer, a shaded play area, a covered picnic area with 4 tables, a restroom, a full court for basketball, off-street parking that will eventually connect to the elementary school, a looped pathway, a nature play area, landscaping and irrigation. The tan areas represent undeveloped spaces, and the brown areas represent pockets of planting, water-conserving plantings, and bark mulch. By taking this approach and focusing on the identified priorities, the proposal does meet the $2.7 million construction budget. Since we will be building before the school is construction, we have made accommodations, again, to link the parking lot to the future school. And this plan has been shared with the school district where they had no additional comments. This plan was shared with the Parks and Recreation Commission at their June meeting, and the commission made the recommendation to forward this plan to council for formal approval. This shows some inspirational images. Because this park proposes some new things, the top row is more about the natural and informal pathways that are associated with the proposed natural play area. The natural play area images on the bottom are representative of what those play features can be. So when we talk about natural play areas, we're talking about tree limbs, tree logs, boulders, and that type of amenity. So at the risk of sounding repetitive, but in case someone's tuning in, just to hear about this park, I'd like to pause again for a moment to talk about the park financing that applies to all parks again in Creekview and Sierra Vista. In the case of Sierra Vista, the park financing plan was developed in 2010, so that's more than 14 years ago. The same factors described earlier for Creekview also apply here in Sierra Vista. The budgets identified in the park financing plan were tight, but were the best guesses at that time. A construction cost index or an inflationary factor is applied in order to develop an updated budget for each park. We still have post-COVID issues related to the construction industry, and the cost of construction is not going down. On top of the regulations described earlier about the Clean Water Act for stormwater pollution protection and the Clean Air Act, which affects the emissions of construction equipment, since this park proposes parking, we also have the Green Building Code that requires us to comply with the installation of EV charging infrastructure. Again, these are not originally contemplated in the finance plans. Again, water conservation remains a factor in park designs and has been implemented over the past 14 years or so. This consideration affects the amount of grass that is included within each park. We have many, many, many more parks to build in Sierra Vista, and we need to remain prudent to stay within the established budgets to ensure that all parks planned within Sierra Vista can be built. And note that KT 52 is one of the 5 parks under development right now in Sierra Vista. Those are actually being worked on, and construction documents are being developed as we speak. This leads to, again, difficult choices to be made for our parks moving forward. While we would like to be able to provide as many varied amenities as possible, we continue to be challenged by both the available funding resources and the increased cost of construction. So to fully build out the entire 7.6 acres of KT 52, we would need an additional $2.5 to $3 million. So the next steps for this park, if approved, we will move forward with construction documents, obtain permits, and seek to break ground in the similar timing as C63, which would be spring of 2025, with a targeted completion in spring of 2026. The action tonight is to approve the KT 52 master plan. So this concludes my presentation, and I stand ready to answer your COCO questions.
All right, any questions?
So I'm just going to ask.
go ahead.
Since it didn't get put into the plan, I saw that the neighborhood didn't want it, but can you tell me what COCO is?
COCO is it uses the same size as a full court for basketball. And so it has these stripes on it on each side, and it's a game of tag. It's the second most popular game in South Asia. And we thought to propose that because we're putting in cricket, and the demographics, it serves the same demographics. That being said, if there was a demand in the future, it would be fairly easy to add the stripes on the basketball court.
Is this the next pickleball? If we did it, we would be ahead of the curve?
We'll be trending.
Be trending, yeah, right? Lots of hashtags. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I had one, Bruce. The labyrinth, is it something, is it like cement on the ground, or is it something above ground, or?
It's a little bit of both. It's basically the pathways are going to be natural, and in this case, it will be gravel, or it's proposed to be gravel, and it will be different pathways in a maze leading up to some of the natural play elements. Some of the separation, if you were going in a circle, for example, could be some native plant material that helps define those pathways, as well as helps define the spaces for the natural play areas.
But you're not enclosed. I keep thinking of Halloween, and then they say the labyrinth, and you're going, and I go,
Yeah.
not something scary where somebody's going to get lost.
No, we'll keep the plant material below. You will be able to see everybody in there. and it's more of a, just
Walk
follow the
around
path.
and a little path.
Yes.
I feel better.
Full
Yeah.
visibility, not scary, no black holes.
Thank you.
A couple questions. Are we able to play cricket on our long fields?
It's hard. We have cricket at 2 locations right now. We have cricket at the Mighty soccer fields, and that's a full size, but all those fields are regulation size. So cricket, you play all the way around, 360 degrees around. So it does require 2 fields with the cricket pitch in the middle. The second location is at Santucci Park, between those 2 soccer fields, and those are large. This one is more of a youth size, so it is a smaller than both Mighty or Santucci, but there's a demand to serve the youth cricket players, so that's why we proposed
Yeah.
something like that.
And that leads me to my next question. I didn't see it on the illustration, but you mentioned parking. How many parking spaces are you envisioning? Are they on the school site, or are they, I didn't see them in the,
Yeah, there is parking, and there's about proposed, and there's about 20 spaces right now. Usually, since it is connected to the school parking, the numbers will double or triple. Because the school's not there, one of the things that we contemplated is to seek some temporary parking accommodations, work with the school until they build.
I'm sorry, I got distracted. How many spaces?
20-ish.
20 spaces?
20-ish. Plus, then you have
not
all the
enough.
on-site street parking.
That's
One of the,
not enough.
yeah,
Given the popularity of cricket, that's not enough.
yes. So one of the things we're looking at is the future of the school site, and then also being able to use part of the school site as a temporary parking until they formally build their parking.
And so will the school have the same EV requirements for parking as we do?
I am not sure about that. I would doubt it.
Okay.
Because they have a different regulations to follow.
Yeah.
A lot of exemptions.
Yeah, no, after going to the Pakistani Cultural Festival and hearing the United States team made of Pakistani Americans beat the Pakistani team, I became fixated with cricket and can't wait for it. I'm going to open it up for public comment. No public comment. I'll close the public comment. Ask the council if, Councilman Allen.
Comment on it. Fantastic about these parks, that's great. I live on the west side of town, and one of the things I've noticed over the years, what you've hit both times, is the funding for the parks is way under what was originally proposed. And some of these specific plans have taken decades to develop, and the budget that was set for them just is not adequate compared to the cost nowadays. I'm not going to be on the council in the future because I'll be terming out, but I want to encourage my fellow council members to really seriously consider down the road, we've got to start thinking about some of our surplus dollars, going back and refurbishing some of our parks, building them up, because, we're great at numbers of parks. Roseville has so many parks, which is fantastic, but the number of features, the quality of just amenities in our parks is pretty thin, especially a lot of these newer ones that I keep seeing be built. And I know it's really tough on staff, and people want, I want a playground and a picnic place, and we're having to pick between things that should have been there in the budget. So I just want to encourage you down the road, please think about our residents and help beef up some of our parks a little bit. They really are going to need some retrofitting to make them really nice, like some of our other parks in the city. So.
Any other comments? I neglected to ask a question. Could I get slide 8 up? I think it's slide 8. I don't think you showed slide 8. I know what's in the bottom there. Is that top photo intended to show that this has been, I recognize, I think one person in that photo, and I think
See
he's
the
sitting
pictures.
right there. I don't think I recognize anyone. I think there's a different city attorney. Is this supposed to demonstrate that it's been 2010 or 11 since?
No, it's just a picture of the council.
Yeah, I see Councilman Albert, but and then I see,
I like where you're going, Mayor, yes.
I see a different, different city clerk. I think it's to say that it's been a long time.
been a
And, you know,
while,
candidly, and, you know, my humor is an attempt to educate, but honestly, these regulations are going to force people where I used to play, in the street, right? I mean, this is going to make parking, to your point, Councilman Albert, I mean, these parks are just going to get priced out of our ability to provide the same quality of parks. I mean, we had this issue right before I got on the council with Central Park or Harry Crab Park, where the operation and maintenance couldn't be done. But now, you know, now we've got different regulations that are really making, you know, parks almost cost prohibitive. Do I have anything else? No, I love cricket. I want to learn how to play cricket. I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On item 9.2, the City Council will consider approving the master plan for KT 52, a school park site, a 7.5-acre park located at Sierra Village Drive within the Sierra Vista area of Roseville. With that, may I please have a motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor with the second. We'll start a roll call with Councilmember Alvord,
Yes.
Councilor Mendoza.
Yes.
Councilmember Rakucci.
Yes.
And Mayor Haudashelt.
Absolutely, yes. All right, we've come to the point in there, thank you very much for your presentation. We've come to the point in the agenda where we'll be opening up for a second round of public comment on non-agenda items. Seeing none, I'll ask the city manager if he has anything to add.
For the reports, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, ask our city attorney.
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Alvord, will you lead us off with your committee activity?
You bet. I know the city attorney was in Iceland while the rest of us were in hell. Yeah, hot ones.
You can.
One of the cool things that happened in our city, and I think all of us got to experience it, was Union Pacific's Big Boy came to town, downtown, and I can let the others talk about what they experienced, but one of the things I wanted to just touch on is events like this drew people from all over. We had people from Napa had contacted us, old friends, hey, we're coming to your town to see the train, and it's amazing they heard about it there. But our restaurants downtown were jam-packed. Of course, our parking garages were jam-packed. But it was a fantastic economic thing that took place. I just thought I would touch on that from that perspective. And that's one of the neat things for some of our future sports complexes. Bringing people from out of town imports dollars into our community, and those dollars really build our economy. Helps out our businesses, and it's just a great thing. Plus, it was just a real fun event as well. My time since our last meeting, which has been a little while, was spent probably mostly in different neighborhood association meetings through Arcona, just getting to hear about the different issues in the neighborhoods and talking with them and answering a lot of questions about growth. That seems to be a real big topic out on the west side. And then the 4th of July parade was really fun, just watching a lot of people packed in here watching the parade, and that was a neat community event as well. That's it.
Okay, thanks. Councilwoman Rakucci?
Just a couple things. On our agenda tonight, under consent, because we were talking about parks, the Hall Park and the Veterans Park, the play structures are going to be replaced. So as we build new facilities, we also have to keep in mind that we have to keep a vigilance on what we have so that it's renovated and safe and fun to play with for everybody. I went to 3 different water meetings recently. South Placer Wastewater Authority meeting, and we're looking at different fees, and we approved a capacity fee. It's $50 less than it had been. NACWA, Northern California Water Association. Most of our meetings were about working together on different issues, and for them it was coming together on floodplain and restorations, but from not only from a farm perspective, but from birds and fish, and working with state and federal entities. So it was good. We worked closely together, but ways we can even be better. And Regional Water Authority, learning where they're at with their Sacramento Regional Water Bank, and they're also working on a project with the Department of Water Resources on the regional watershed and how we can do things better. So that was pretty good. As far as the big boy, the train, a lot of people from out of state, and there were people that used to live in Roseville came back. My husband was a board member at the Carnegie Museum, and there were hundreds of people, and they were coming from different entities, and they were real excited to be here. And I share Councilmember Alred's enthusiasm about the train. I think I did another thing. It brought people together. You saw people from all over Roseville, all over everywhere, and some people came before, as the train came in, took pictures, the Friday, the Saturday, and also the day that it left. I was there about 3 or 4 different times, bringing my grandson and my daughter, and then my husband and I went. But I just see the enjoyment and the joy from little kids to all people of all ages being there. And I really felt this is one of the ties that brought Roseville together. And it was really nice. Yes, it was hot, and yes, we had lots of, a lot of people trying to find parking spots, but it was fun. And I thank Union Pacific for doing this and making stops here. And it was, because we are a railroad town, I mean, that's how it was founded, and we are one of the biggest areas that do take care of renovation on trains and fixed trains, and, locomotives, I should say, and so having them come back, and it's also a place where many people, it's an employment center too for us as well. And I think I hit all those. Just a quick comment. This week, what happened this week here in the United States should have, never happened. And maybe we all have, peace and safety for all of us in the United States and in other countries, and peace, safety, and work together. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Mendoza.
So I attended some of the same events my fellow council members did. The big boy was really exciting to see come down through Roseville from Reno and head on up through Auburn and on its way, on its predetermined journey. Really cool. My wife, Kristen, and I, we got to take a tour of some of the cars. And I just want to give a really big thank you to Adrian at Union Pacific. Him and his crew, they did an amazing job. Everybody involved in that. And then also a lot of people forget, because it's Union Pacific, that there's a big lift on the city side too. So thank you to all of our city staff and all of our people who worked so diligently to get the thousands of people through the streets, and the people who walked against the red lights and the no walking signs and everything, and were patient with visitors who were here for this historic event. Your hard work and your patience with the large crowds did not go unnoticed, so thank you for all of your efforts on that. It was great to see everybody at the 4th of July parade. That was a lot of fun, always a fun time. I do agree with my fellow council members. I wish it was a tad bit cooler. The only cooling we got, I think, was when we picked up speed on Douglas. As we went back to our cars, it was nice to kind of get that breeze. And a big thank you, too, to Chief Barty and the fire department for always extending that invitation to us to be on that fire truck. And no other reports from my assignments at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, great. I'll pick up where everybody, I remember, I came into town on Thursday, and Big Boy was here. Union Pacific, which has been part of the city for 160 years, was having an event for their employees, and our city was filled Thursday evening with that. Where this is one of only two two-day stops that Union Pacific had on this, and the other one is coming up in Ogden, Utah. So it is a real testament to this partnership and relationship between Union Pacific and the city, that they chose the rail yard, which is the biggest rail yard west of the Mississippi. And I echo the sentiments of everyone about, there was a lot of organization, a lot of involvement from our police, a lot of involvement from our public affairs, promoting the event, making sure that the event went off safely. And I had an opportunity to be on Good Day Sacramento on Friday, and then on behalf of the council, welcome everybody on Saturday as the open the gates. And it's an opportunity. We all are out in the community, and some folks came up and they wanted to have a picture, their child's picture with the mayor, but some came up and took that opportunity to talk about city issues, and so I always value that. And what a terrific! It was sad to see Big Boy and its steam chugging east toward Sparks, where somebody used to work here was picking up the joy that we were all feeling. Anyway, on our agenda are an awful lot of things, and I just wanted to point out there were 2 resolutions tonight that we didn't talk about, but one is, and it seems appropriate, given our presentations tonight, a resolution honoring Parks and Recreation Month, which is July, and then honoring one of our longtime employees in public affairs, Brian Jacobson. So those of you who are watching, I encourage you to look at our agenda and look at that. I had an opportunity at the end of June to go on the SACOG study mission to Denver with Lauren Hawker of our staff. It was really, really illuminating. Denver's ahead and behind us on a variety of things. So we had an opportunity to look at some of their affordable housing, some of their redevelopment, and I think that'll have input on our commercial quarters and other things like that. So there were some valuable lessons. The Sac Metro Chamber new CEO was there along with a number of developers. So that was, and a number of council members from around the region. So that was very valuable. And this is something, and since I think we met last, didn't the Supreme Court make a decision on?
We made a lot of decisions.
Well, one that's near and dear to our heart, I think, is Johnson versus Grants Pass. And I think what I understand from that is Roseville was part of a 13-city amicus brief on this, and a tribute to our staff that some of that language got picked up in the Supreme Court decision, which was just a tribute to our staff on the challenges and different facets of homelessness. Councilman Albert and others have mentioned 4th of July. At least on my end of the town, it was a lot quieter. I'd like to ask, I know there's a letter that's circulating to the governor on a bi-state task force to control the influx of illegal fireworks. So California and Nevada, is that something we should have staff come back and take a look at and see if we should write a letter from the city of Roseville? Yes, no?
I would be okay
Or
with
just
that.
find out information about it.
Dennis Revelle
Yeah,
has the letter
just
if you want it.
see what it's
Yeah.
about, and if we want
So-
to do it.
Could you come back and tell us?
I'm aware of the letter and the effort. I'm happy to share that with the council and
Okay.
get further information.
That'd be great.
Yeah, thank you.
And then the last thing, I thought these vehicles had gotten towed to the site, but I understand there was a fire at Bubba's Auto Body on Washington. And have we gone out and taken a look at that? Has there been a code inspection on that property?
There's an ongoing open code enforcement effort on that site right now, yes.
I don't have anything else. If that's, where's Chief? National Night Out is August, where's Erica? August 6th?
8th, 6th, hang on. It is,
So it's right before we meet again, isn't it? Okay. So the National Night Out is August 6th. We'll all of us will be throughout the city that night, and then we're adjourned to our next city council meeting on August 7th. With that, thank you very much, everybody.